Today on the Wealth Cafe, we are diving into what it means to ski in retirement. And no, I don't mean what it means to take a trip to Aspen and check out the slopes or go to Vermont for the weekend. Well, okay, that could be part of it. We'll dive into that shortly. But the idea of ski, spend kids' inheritance has gained a lot of popularity lately. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to just be your kids. It could just be the concept of, hey, we don't want to leave any money behind. There has been a big group of people who try to figure out and calculate when exactly they will die so they can say, I want to make sure that I am spending every single penny I have. And I want us to break down today some considerations to be mindful of if this is a lifestyle you want to spend. You may be the person who doesn't have necessarily direct heirs you want to leave things to. And so you're sitting here saying, why not spend all this money on myself? I've also seen situations with clients where their children are doing really well financially in their adult years, and they're sitting here saying, you know what, we worked really hard. We don't feel the need to leave an inheritance behind. There is no wrong or right answer in this situation. I know some people are going to listen to this conversation and say, how could you not want to leave money behind for your kids? How could you not want to leave it to charity, whatever it might be? And what I found in the conversations I've had with people is that they're not necessarily spending this money because they are doing it out of spite or they want to say, hey, I'm just going to see, how much money I can spend in my retirement. A lot of times it's that they want and to have this intentionality and this mission behind spending their money that they did work really hard, right? For all these years and they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? To put it simply, they want to travel, they want to buy a second home, they want to experience life to the fullest while they are still here. I've also seen a lot of people too who then want to spend this money on their family and have these experiences while they are alive. I had one instance where I saw somebody who, he was older and he decided to take his entire extended family. It was about 18 or 19 people, and they went on a luxurious vacation for 2 weeks. Is that money he could have saved and passed on to them when he was gone? Absolutely. But he also wanted to have those memories and that experience and that time with all of them while he was still alive and healthy and they could create those memories together rather than hoarding the money and leaving it behind with, maybe no intentionality behind it. So, if you are planning to ski in retirement, it has to you have to have a plan behind it. I see a lot of people who are like, well, we're just going to spend freely. Longevity, as I've mentioned in other episodes, is a real consideration, right? You want to make sure that you are spending in a way that your money lasts for the entire time you are alive. Now, you're never going to, or rarely have I seen this happen, die with exactly zero in your bank account, right? To some extent, there will be some money left behind. And you kind of want to have that buffer, right? Like, you don't know. You could live to 90, you could live to 100, could shoot well beyond that. Who knows? And you also don't know what expenses you're going to incur while you are in those retirement years. The big things that we can't exactly predict are medical conditions, right? Anything that has to do with hospitalization, long-term care, those are big ticket items. So, what I always encourage clients to do is what are some of those big ticket items and bucket list items that you would want to be spending on during your retirement? Is it a cruise around the world? Is it a trip to Italy? The common one that I see with clients is they want to be taking a big trip or two trips every single year. Go away for 2 to 3 weeks because now they're off and can be away for a longer period of time. So they really want to go to a place and explore it. And I've also seen a lot of people who are upgrading accommodations, right? It's no longer a time period where they're saying, hey, let's go stay in whatever, hotel has a deal. It's something they've seen online and said, oh, this property is beautiful. We'd love to go spend some time here. Oh, we want to go have this excursion or experience, but really, get the VIP kind of treatment because they're not necessarily worried about how much money they are leaving behind. However, we need to make sure that we are planning for these things as well as that later part of your retirement. I always talk about the two parts of retirement, right? The first part where we are healthy, traveling, being with the family, and the second part where unfortunately our health might be declining. So we want to make sure that we have enough to cover during those years should something happen, right? If you need long-term care, if you end up having exponential medical costs, if you need a surgery or certain medications, and you are also in a time period where you're not going to go return to work to go and cover these things. So we want to make sure we are budgeting for that. And as I mentioned, be clear and communicate with your financial team. What are those big bucket list items that you want to do, right? The big trips, the excursions you want to take. Maybe it is taking the entire family with you if possible and if they can go. Make sure you communicating that to them so then that way you can price those things out, right? What we always look at each year is how much can clients comfortably spend to make sure that they can live. When we're looking at financial plans, we're typically pricing things out and mapping it out from 95, living to 95 or 100 years old, right? We want to make sure you can get to that time period. Statistically speaking, we all won't make it there, right? So dying with zero is a little more difficult to time out, but it's the intentionality and the planning behind it. The other thing is you can also utilize gifting during your lifetime, right? If you're like, hey, we don't want our family to worry about dividing things up while we're gone, you can gift things away intentionally while you're still alive, right? We have the annual gifting amounts that one person can give to another, and those increase every year. So be mindful and utilize those if you want to be giving away cash or other assets. You also might decide, hey, we have things that we want to divvy up that are more personal items, right? Something our family did was we went through jewelry, and some of it may not have value, but it has that memory piece, right? You always remember a parent or a grandparent wearing a certain watch or a pair of earrings, and it has that sentimental value that somebody else might not think of. So those are things that we talked about and give away during our lifetime because we love to have those conversations and have those stories while the person is still alive and to be able to pass things on. And then that way nothing gets lost in the shuffle. The last thing I want to remind you of too, if you are considering a skier or not, right? You might be sitting here being like, this is crazy. I have to leave money or assets to my kids. You still need to estate plan. No matter which category you fall in, estate planning is essential. You might sit here and be like, well, if I have no assets, what's there to plan for? The likelihood that you'll have exactly zero, it's not, it's not always going to come down to that, right? There's going to be something left in theory or in hope, right? Whether it's some bank accounts that are remaining, it could be a long-term care policy that has a death benefit on it that you didn't use all of. It might be your car. You never know what you may have at that time because we can't perfectly time our death. If I had a crystal ball at this point, I think I'd probably be able to, retire and by telling everybody exactly what their life was going to look like. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And so we need to still plan if as if things will be around, right? We still need to talk about, okay, if there is remaining money in certain accounts, who would you want it to go to? And you might sit here and say, hey, I don't want it to go to my kids. I want it to go to charities. I want to be able to leave a legacy. I've seen a lot of people set up foundations at their colleges or universities that they went to be able to give back because they're so thankful that they were given an opportunity there and want to pay it forward to the next generation. And so these are things to consider and talk about, but this planning needs to happen during your life, right? And you may sit there and be sitting and saying, okay, we have a couple $1 million now. By the end of retirement, we don't want to have nearly that much. We want to live, we want to enjoy it. But whatever's left, where do you want it to go? Where do you want some of that money to live on? And you can still spend in the intentional free manner that you want to during your retirement years, but you want to make sure you're not writing that check to Uncle Sam. Even if you don't want to leave money to kids, you probably don't want to leave it to the government or have someone step in and decide where that money should go. So making sure that you are still talking about whatever is remaining, we don't know how much that will be. Here's how much you would get. Or not even here's how much you would get, but here's where you would go to find it. And here's where you would need to access our accounts should that happen. And these are really important things to think of. I know it's a difficult conversation to have, but I filmed other episodes as well that you can check out talking about these different estate planning and topics. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you want to be a skier in retirement, or do you plan on leaving as much as you can for your kids? Maybe you fall somewhere in the middle, right? You're sitting here saying, well, we still want to enjoy our lives, but we'd like to leave a sizable amount to our children and grandchildren. So let me know. I always see a sliding scale of people, as I mentioned. I see everything from leave nothing to leave it all. So I'd love to hear from you on what you think and what questions you have when it comes to being a skier in retirement. If this is something you want to talk more about, make sure it is something you are mapping out in your financial plan. You can either do that with us. You can contact us at tanisfingroup.com/contact. There is a new client application form in there, and we can schedule a complimentary intro call to talk more about this. And I will see you next week on the Wealth Cafe for another episode.